Today, we're going to talk about diabetic neuropathy, but I'm pretty sure it's not the kind you're thinking of. We're going to peel back the layers on the typical story to uncover a side of this condition that is way more dramatic and, honestly, pretty surprising.
So when I say diabetic nerve damage, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For almost everyone, it's that slow, creeping numbness or tingling in the feet, right? But what if I told you there's another kind, one that doesn't creep, it strikes, suddenly and severely?
Okay, so this lays it all out side by side. On one side, you've got the neuropathy we all know, slow, sensory, something tied to blood sugar being off for a long time. But look at the other side. This is a totally different beast. Sudden onset. It's about motor function, weakness, muscle wasting. It can hit you anywhere, your eyes, your torso, your thighs. And here's the real kicker. It often shows up in people who have their diabetes under pretty good control.
So to get our heads around this, let's do a quick tour of these less common conditions. They're called mononeuropathies, which is just a fancy way of saying a single nerve suddenly decides to, well, fail.
First up, cranial neuropathy. Imagine this. You wake up one day and suddenly you're seeing double because the nerve that controls one of your eye muscles has just quit. Or you develop Bell's palsy, where one side of your face is paralyzed. It's a really startling, out-of-the-blue kind of thing.
Then there's something called diabetic radiculopathy. And let me tell you, the key word here is pain. We're talking severe, sharp pain wrapping around one side of your chest or abdomen. It's so intense that it's often mistaken for shingles or a gallbladder attack or even a heart attack. It's that bad.
And finally, entrapment neuropathy. This might be the one you've actually heard of because the most famous example is carpal tunnel syndrome. Basically, diabetes can make nerves more vulnerable, and when they pass through tight spots in the body, they get squeezed, leading to all kinds of pain and weakness.
Okay, so that's the whirlwind tour. Now, let's get to the main event. We're going to do a deep dive into a rare but really profound condition that kind of rolls all the worst features of what we just saw into one. It's called diabetic amyotrophy. First things first, this condition has a bit of an identity crisis. You'll hear it called diabetic amyotrophy, Bruns-Garland syndrome, or, get ready for this one, diabetic lumbosacral radiculoplexus neuropathy. Yeah, I know. Just remember they all point to the same, very dramatic syndrome.
So what does it actually feel like? Well, it follows this classic and frankly pretty terrifying progression. It kicks off with this abrupt, really severe pain in your thigh, hip, or back. Then, within weeks, that pain gives way to progressive weakness, and your muscles actually start to waste away. You can see it happening. And on top of all that, there's almost always this significant, unwanted weight loss.
I know, that sounds absolutely awful. So, to start solving the mystery of what's going on here, let's look at who this usually happens to. Because the answer, well, it's not what you'd expect.
This chart gives us a really clear snapshot. It overwhelmingly hits people with type 2 diabetes, that's 95%. Two-thirds of the time, it's men, and the median age when it all starts is around 62. So it definitely points to a very specific group.
But here is where it gets really weird. It completely flips the script on what we think we know about diabetic complications. All the way back in 1955, Dr. H. Garland pointed out that it happens in people who had a short and not severe course of diabetes. This isn't the result of decades of poor control.
And this number right here just drives that point home. 18%. A staggering 18% of patients were actually diagnosed with diabetes after their amyotrophy symptoms started. Just let that sink in. For almost 1 in 5 people, this devastating nerve condition was the very first sign that anything was wrong.
And remember that weight loss I mentioned? We're not talking about a few pounds. The average amount lost is about 25 pounds. This is so significant it has its own name, neuropathic cachexia, and it's incredibly draining for the person going through it.
So if it's not simply caused by high blood sugar over many years, then what in the world is actually happening inside the body to cause all this damage? Let's dig into the biology. The main theory comes down to this one word, microvasculitis. You can think of it like this. The body's own immune system gets its wires crossed. It launches an attack on the tiny, fragile blood vessels that feed the nerves. This inflammation basically creates a roadblock, causing what's called ischemic injury. In plain English, it's cutting off the nerve's blood and oxygen supply. It's starving the nerve.
Okay, I know. Everything we've talked about so far sounds incredibly grim. But this is where the story takes a hard right turn towards hope. because despite this absolutely brutal onset, the long-term prognosis is, surprisingly, pretty good.
Just look at these numbers from one big study. Almost half, 49%, had a substantial or even a full recovery. Another 42% saw moderate improvement. You add that up, and over 90% of people get significantly better. Now, the key is it takes time. It can be a long road, often a year or more.
So how do people get there? Well, treatment is a multi-pronged attack. First, you have to get that severe pain under control. Second, of course, is getting blood sugar managed well. Some doctors try immunotherapy because of that whole inflammation theory, but honestly, the jury's still out on that one. And that leaves us with the true, undisputed cornerstone of recovery:
Physical therapy. As Dr. David S.H. Bell puts it so clearly, the most important therapy is physical therapy, the intensity of which is proportional to the degree of recovery. Basically what he's saying is, the harder you work in rehab, the better your recovery is going to be. It's that direct link.
Whew, okay. We have gone through a lot here. So after this whole deep dive, what's the crucial point? What's the one thing you really need to take away from all this?
Well, here are the big ones. First, not all diabetic neuropathy is that slow, creeping kind. Some forms hit you like a ton of bricks. Second, the cause probably isn't just high blood sugar, but an inflammatory attack on the nerve's blood supply. Third, and this is the most hopeful part, even though it starts out terrifying, the long-term outlook is good. And finally, recovery is a marathon, not a sprint. It's all about that intensive, consistent rehab.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. If the root cause of this whole thing is really inflammation, a friendly fire incident from our own immune system, what kind of new treatments could we develop in the future that target that immune response directly? I mean, thinking about that, it could change everything.